Hi, I'm Sal Sanders. Sorry I can't be with you in person today to discuss this important issue, but I'm on my way back from Glenville State College, hopefully with some information on some great students who wish to apply to our graduate school. I didn't want to delay this important discussion of a proposal to change how GPA is calculated for admission to our graduate school. So I thank you for your consideration. Enjoy the show. Calculation and review of grade point average as part of an overall assessment of a student's application is important in making an admission decision. We want to ensure the academic integrity of our programs. We want to be able to predict which students will be successful in those programs, and certainly we want to select the very best students for admission into our graduate school. So this is an important issue. So a little bit of context here. In the undergraduate bulletin information, which is available online at the URL that I have listed there at the bottom of the slide, describes recalculation of grade point average and suggests that a current undergraduate student may wish to improve his or her cumulative point average by repeating a course in which a grade of D or F was earned. And it goes through some procedural information and then suggests that although courses are not deleted from the permanent record, the record is adjusted to reflect the inclusion of only the last grade in the computation of the point average. The hours credited towards degree hours completed are those earned with the last grade. So nowhere in here does it suggest to the student anything about the impact of this recalculation should they decide to become a graduate student at a future time. The concept of unrecalculated GPA is introduced in the graduate bulletin. This information comes from the 2012-2014 edition. An unrecalculated cumulative grade point average in undergraduate work of at least 2.7 on a 4.0 scale is the minimum that's required to be fully accepted into the graduate school. If an undergraduate course has been repeated, all grades received will figure in the calculation of the grade point average. This unrecalculated GPA may require a little bit of explanation. We are in many cases recalculating the GPA for students where a course or courses have been repeated. In many cases, the institution has omitted the grade and hours of the original course from the GPA calculation and instead only includes the grade of the last time that the course was taken. In essence, we need to recalculate the GPA in the transcript to arrive at this unrecalculated GPA. So a philosophical question as we explore this issue is, if the student earned an A when they repeated a course, did they demonstrate excellent performance? Consider this. If a student earns a failing grade initially and then later repeats the course, earning an A grade, is their final performance excellent? Is it worthy of an A, or is their final performance average? Because a C is the average of an A and an F, and that's what we're doing when we recalculate these grades. We're taking the A and the F, averaging them, and saying that the student's performance was actually average, not excellent. So one of the considerations here, one of the driving forces behind this change in policy, I believe, is a matter of perception. While students are in our undergraduate programs, we inform them that the second grade for the course replaces the initial grade for the purposes of GPA calculation. Then when they apply to our graduate school, we let them in on a little secret. We are going to put those low grades back into your GPA. So really, what message are we sending? I believe this is an important matter, and it is definitely a matter of perception. So there is still, even if a student's GPA does fall below that 2.7 threshold, they can still be admitted to the graduate school, in many cases by presenting a satisfactory score on the general test of the graduate record exam, the Miller's analogy test, or graduate level subject-specific exam as specified by the department that houses the program that they're being considered for. So they can still get in, and in many cases they still are granted admission. They do manage to gain admission to the graduate school by taking one of these standardized tests and achieving a satisfactory score. Now, the satisfactory score in most cases is not defined, but it is defined in the sense that it must be satisfactory as determined by the department. I just want to provide an example or two of how our current practice may be impacting students. And these are actual student situations that have occurred, although the names have been changed. Student got off to a less than stellar start academically. He was able to get back on track using our statute of limitations, which wiped out credit hours and grades for several older courses as he was pursuing his undergraduate degree. Mark, not his real name of course, graduates with a 3.16 GPA, and he decides he wants to go to graduate school. He applies to YSU and is told that his GPA is not high enough to meet our minimum standard. He's informed that if he wants to get in, he can study up and take the GRE. Now, Mark's been away from high school for some time, and it took him a while to get his bachelor's degree, and so he does not want to study some subjects that, while important to passing the GRE, are not of real interest to him. So Mark has yet to take the GRE and apply for graduate school here at YSU. Now, just so you don't think that Mark's a slacker, he's vice president of a pretty prominent company. Another example of a student that got off to a less than stellar start. This student repeated several courses over their first few years of pursuing their bachelor's degree, and with the original scores added in, her GPA was low enough that she was to be rejected by the graduate school, despite the fact that later grades in upper division courses were reasonably good. Eventually, this file was sent on to the program director of the program the student applied for, who informed the student of the need to take the GRE in order to be considered, and we haven't heard yet of the final outcome of this particular example. I sent a survey to our colleagues at the Regents Advisory Committee on Graduate Study, or RAGS. There are 14 institutions represented by RAGS, and 3 institutions replied to the survey item that you see here, other than YSU. One of the 3 utilized the highest grade earned when calculated the applicant's GPA for admission to graduate school, and the other 2 did not. So a real limitation here, of course, is the low response rate, but another way to look at this is if we decide to make this change, at least YSU would not be alone if we decide to adopt this type of method for calculating GPAs when considering students for graduate school admission. I thank you for your time and your patience with me. I'm proposing a language change and a procedural change. I would like a recalculated cumulative grade point average in undergraduate coursework of at least 2.7 on a 4.0 scale to be the minimum acceptable standard for the graduate school, for admission to the graduate school. That brings us back to the consideration of the purpose of GPA. I believe the change being proposed here is in keeping with the purpose of evaluating undergraduate GPA as part of the admission criteria to our graduate school. The change that I'm proposing is also more in line with the procedures and policies that have been made available to undergraduate students at this institution as well as many others, and would eliminate the surprise that some of our applicants currently experience when they apply to our graduate school. I thank you for your consideration and your sound judgment. Again, I'm available to answer your questions or to further discuss this matter, just give me a call. I'm at 330-651-8970. Thanks so much. Enjoy the day.